right, can you guys hear me with the microphone today? My microphone is on. Can anyone hear me? I know there were complaints about the microphones at Tuesday's meeting, so I want to make sure that everyone can hear me. There's always one in every class, isn't there? I'd like to call to order the special governing board meeting. Let the record show the time is 4:30. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, actually, I skipped the roll call. Let the record show all 5 members are present. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Passes 5-0. Okay, we have one action item on our agenda for tonight, or this afternoon. Before we start, I have a few brief comments that I would like to make. Friday the 13th. What could go wrong with a board meeting on Friday the 13th? I know that everyone would like to get out of here probably to, well, wherever you go on Friday, so I will be brief. I understand there is some frustration, or a great deal of frustration, that we did not vote on this item on Tuesday night, and I would like to take a moment to quickly explain how we got to this point. So our board has agreed that agenda items are brought forward first as a preview or discussion item, not as an action item, and we only vote on action items. The reason for this is so that all board members have a chance to review any documentation, because we're responsible for reviewing approximately 200 pages of notes and attachments prior to each board meeting. So board members need time to take a look at those. Open meeting law prohibits us from discussing agenda items outside of a public meeting. It is only through discussion in an open meeting that we can share information with one another and reach a consensus on any action item. When DVA leadership, as well as other employees, shared their desire to have the board approve a Red for Ed resolution, Ms. Tweedy and I placed it on the meeting agenda as a discussion item per our agreed upon process. We never intended to force a vote at the April 10th meeting. In retrospect, I should have explained this in my board report on Tuesday. When we agreed to place this item on the agenda, Ms. Tweedy and I, separately and on different occasions, explained this process to DVA leadership, knowing they were closely involved with Arizona Educators United and the Red for Ed movement. I assumed, incorrectly, that this information would then be shared with members of both groups. In hindsight, I should not have made this assumption, so I would like to personally apologize for this misunderstanding and for any angst or stress this has caused any employee. I would also like to extend an apology to my fellow board members for this miscommunication and thank them for coming to a special meeting on Friday afternoon. And I would especially like to thank our certified staff who stayed late on a Friday to set up the room, to run the live stream, to take notes. So a special thanks to them. Please know that I have learned a great deal from this experience. All right, so on to our action item. Go ahead and make a motion. I'm sorry, we do have public comments, which we have moved to the beginning of this meeting.
We need to have the agenda item there, and then you can open it for comments.
Correct. Okay.
I move that the governing board sign a resolution in support of Deer Valley teachers as they advocate for the support of public education through activities including the Red for Ed movement.
Okay. Do we have a second for that motion?
Could you read that one more time?
Well, I think it should say teachers and support staff, but the motion's not written that way, so
we'll vote on.
Add it if you want.
You can amend it.
Add it if you want. Okay. I move that the governing board sign a resolution in support of Deer Valley teachers and support staff as they advocate for the support of public education through activities including the Red for Ed movement. Second.
Okay, so we do have 2 public speakers who wish to speak to this item. So I will call your names, and I know Mrs. Taylor already told me how to pronounce your last names, and I've already forgotten. So we'll go with Callie and Eric. You will have 3 minutes. And Ms. Tweedy, if you would read the admonishment as soon as it comes up on the screen.
The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, topic, and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism. Who's doing this?
They're just changing the font on her. Remember, it's Friday the 13th.
Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remark disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda.
Please state your full name for the record.
My name is Eric Quinna. Okay, so I'm here today as a citizen. I'm not a teacher, but I'm the spouse of a teacher. So she's the better half of me. What I can say is that she was nominated for the Deer Valley District Teacher of the Year this year. And I can say that this year will be her last year teaching here. We are moving to New York because she can make twice as much pay in a well-funded school in an area that costs less to live in. Luckily, my job is portable. Our family doesn't live here, so there's nothing holding us back. So you're losing a wonderful teacher because you've priced her out of the market. Because not you personally, but the state has priced her out of the market. To me, it's sad and it's disappointing. She is very dedicated. So we were having a conversation while we were sitting here, and she said, I should have brought my papers to correct, but I'm going to do that first thing when I get home. So you ask what teachers do on Friday night? They correct papers. You ask what they do on Saturday? They correct papers. What do they do on Sunday? They plan for the next week. What do we do, or what do they do, or what do we do as a family during spring break? We go on vacation, but the whole time she stresses about her students. Every student in her classroom matters to her, but none of our teachers seem to matter to our governor. I work in the corporate world. I watched Doug Ducey's presentation last night, and I saw some very funny math. So I'm a data analyst, so I look at lots of numbers all day long. And if my boss stood in front of me and said, hey, I'm going to count a one-time bonus as part of this, plus I'm going to tell you, hey, 20%, but the next 2 to 3 years are also included that. To me, it's laughable. If you told me 20%, I expect 20% today, not 20% over the next 3-5 years, and next year you said you change your mind. So to me, it's not good enough, and it doesn't affect us at all because we're leaving. My wife will never see that increase, but she's still here in support because it's not the increase. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is our schools and our students, because how can we grow and how can we teach our kids to be leaders of the future? How can we support and fill our businesses with good people if we don't support our schools? I'm a product of public education. My whole family's a product of education, public education. My mother was a teacher. My father was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. It's important to all of us. And I'd just like to close with asking what was meant by asking support staff to report during a possible strike, or staff to report during a possible strike. So I would like clarification on whether that is going to be forcing teachers to go back to work if that's what they choose to do.
Thank you for your comments, and Dr. Finch, if you could provide us with if you would like to respond or provide us with information.
I'll take a stab at that. I was on a webinar today talking with other superintendents and working with 4 other superintendents around the state. The question is, will we have teachers report? Will we have staff support staff report during possible walkouts, closures, strikes, that kind of thing? The answer to this moment is I don't know, because I'm working with the Red for Ed leadership and the association leadership on what it might look like, because how they respond helps me set up how we have to respond. And I'll give you a couple examples that could be an issue. One is if we close, or if we strike, or if we walk out, whatever word you want to use there, we have to make a decision if it's going to be long or short, how to feed kids. Maybe, and you could argue, that could be the only meal that some of those kids get. So do we decide to keep open? Do we decide to go close? What if it's just pockets in our district? What if it's everywhere? Each of those scenarios, I have to have a plan ready to go for that. So on Monday, my executive cabinet's going to continue to work on more plans. I'm actually meeting with the Red for Ed folks again Monday morning to get some more feedback from them. So how we work together, we want what's best for students. So how the information that they give to me will help me shape where we head. So I don't really know the exact answer, to be honest with you. We're working on it, and it really depends on how this shapes into the future.
Our next speaker. Please state your name for the record.
Callie Trapedi. Thanks for taking your Friday to come and hear us, especially on such an unlucky day. My name is Callie Trapedi. I am currently the band, choir, and general music teacher at Bel Air Elementary. A little bit about myself. I moved here from New Mexico to go to school up in Flag, and I student taught in the district. It was the only district I knew about, and immediately got a job last year after I finished student teaching at Bel Air and Constitution, teaching general music, and went full-time at Bel Air. Last year I was also nominated for Rookie Teacher of the Year. And my family, my stepmom is a special ed teacher, my dad is a high school English history teacher, my grandparents were teachers, my grandfather was on a governing board, my grandma was a union rep, so yeah. Everyone's been telling me what to do, I'm like, no, it's fine. Anyway, so there was a couple of things I wanted to bring. I wanted to say thank you for giving up your Friday to making sure that we all are clear on what is going on and the support that we will be getting. Also, I wanted to bring up something that has not been discussed, but I think needs to be heard, and that is our teachers that are not in the general ed classroom, our special ed teachers, our special area teachers. We need you just as much as everyone else does, especially our classified staff members as well. I know my boyfriend works in Washington District right now, and they are reorganizing how they do their elementary band programs because they were already planning on giving their teachers a pay raise next year, and he will not have a job in the district next year because of it. So when I see that and when I hear about this, and it makes me nervous because I'm worried if that's going to be my job as well when we do, or whenever this happens, on getting a pay raise. So please do not forget about your teachers that are not just teaching math and English and science. Remember your art teachers, your music teachers, your PE teachers. For a lot of our students, they come to school because they really like art, and we give them a venue and an avenue of expressing themselves that sometimes you can't do in writing, sometimes you can't do in science. Don't forget your classified members. I know personally on my school campus, if it wasn't for my paras, I would not have hair because I'd be pulling it out every day. They are my best friends, and they save us all the time, and I know every time I look at a para, that's someone that is working with me to make sure we're getting the best for our students. And every time I look at our cafeteria workers, I know the same thing. When I walk into the office, I see smiling faces, and I know that's what's representing our school and also our district. So don't forget about everyone that is going to be affected by this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you to both of our speakers for your comments. So we have a motion on the floor.
I'd like to ask Dr. Finch a question.
Go ahead.
Just because that's something that hasn't come up before, has there been any talk about what the fallout might be, cutting in programs or anything like that? I mean, the governor didn't say where he's going to get the money from. So has that discussion even come up anywhere? Because, I mean, I know we haven't talked about cutting any programs or anything like that. To me, that was never even a thought, but
No.
has any of that conversation even come up before?
No, the ASBA just put out a good summary of it, where the governor's projecting where it's going to be coming from. So, and again, it's still pretty fluid. And remember, this still has to be negotiated through the legislature, which is a major hurdle. And so that's what they're going to be working on ASAP. So I think, as the gentleman mentioned, the devil's going to be in the details, and we'll know more as it progresses and as the negotiations start. So,
Did he mention anything about, because he did lose where he took the money for 123 out of the land trust? He lost the court case. Is that a factor at all? Right, is that a factor in?
Yeah, he mentioned that he wanted to, I think that was Cave Creek issue, that's the lawsuit. He mentioned that in his speech, and he mentioned it in the summary that I read, that would, he is accounting for that, so it will include that.
Okay. And then the only other thing I have on this topic, because I guess I'm the only one that sent in any edits, and so I don't know, I just kind of want to, I believe we're going to adopt a resolution one way or the other, and I don't really care if we change it at all. But I wanted to make a few points because, since Tuesday night, you go online and you look, and either we're getting trashed or someone else is getting trashed. But one of the things that is most disturbing is to see the teaching profession getting trashed. And that really concerned me. I've met with or met up with a lot of other people who work in government, and they've specifically police, fire, and other, cities, counties, workers. And they're some of them are angry, saying, we got cut too, and none of us have our money back. I retired with less money than I had in 2008. So that's the reason, if you look in the middle where it says no one has worked harder or nor waited longer for raises, I didn't know if that was an important line to teachers, or if it would be better if we removed it, just to not step on our firefighters, on our police officers, on our, the garbage guy that picks up our trash every week. And I just didn't know if that was something that was important to board members or to teachers or someone else, because at the end of the day, the only angst I think a lot of us have had is that we don't want the opposite to occur. So that's the reason for that line, and I don't know if anybody has an opinion on it. Again, I wanted to add the line where something saying that we were committed to resolving an issue at our board level. And that's the line I put at the bottom, so I don't know if anybody wants to entertain that. And then since I'm not, the only legal battle was the concern that SOS, because we have SOS got something on the ballot, is do we need to take off that hashtag red for ed? Is there a potential for any of that, or that's just not a factor? And so those were the notes that I sent in. And then the last part was when it says full support, because my concern is it full support no matter what happens? So what if something bad happens? We support it anyway. So those are my questions. And I don't know if anybody else has an opinion. I don't care if we change them or not. It's just my thought, because the conversation out there, whether it's social media or in actual conversations, it's just not taking a good turn.
So just to read the line you would add at the bottom, because I know it.
I just threw something on, so I mean, we can rephrase it, but if you want to
Right,
read
right.
it.
I just
yeah.
want to read it so that members of the public know, because it was not on the
Right.
document that was posted. So you are recommending, one of the changes you're recommending is that we add at the bottom, we as a board are committed to reviewing all funds we have and all that we receive now and in the future to ensure our teachers and staff are considered first in allocating resources.
I just thought we should add it. I mean,
Okay?
I'm worried about that wording because it says all and it says in the future. So that would be the next 20 years, the next 10 minutes. That's what's made me nervous about that line. That one, and I double checked the other one on the Red for Ed again today. I checked with the executive director of ASA, and he
Okay.
said that was fine.
Okay.
And so we're good there. So I think
Mine is fine. I apologize for
the Red for Ed, I think that's fine. And that's been viewed by two separate sets of attorneys. One of them, I think back to Ms. Fisher's point, is actually the issue is if it ever gets attached to a ballot measure, then it becomes legal, but it becomes an issue that you can't support legally. But
so if we
and
just
you
remove
could
the
argue,
all, would
I
that
think
be?
you could argue that it when you signed this, it wasn't a ballot measure, so you'd be covered. That was
Right.
I had that discussion today with
So
them as well.
if we just remove the full at the bottom and we just said we support, then we're supporting. But if it becomes any, would that fix that?
I think we can have the word full because the rest of that sentence says, in ways that are lawful
Lawful.
and do not disrupt the educational mission of our district.
Right, but elections are lawful.
But it's not.
Wouldn't disrupt. That's why I'm saying I
correct,
don't
but
know.
I'm just saying because those are not things we can.
Yeah, we don't have
say in,
control
but
over it.
so we're saying in a lawful way for us. I'm
Right.
not saying an election is unlawful, but it's not lawful. For
Oh,
us,
so then
we're
you're
saying-
thinking that would give us the
so
out.
That
Right.
covers
Okay,
us
if it
in-
became-
in that because that was this paragraph was added by
Lowell
Denise
Britt.
Lowell Britt. So
Right.
Yeah, and
So
she's a really good attorney.
Those were my thoughts also, Mrs. O'Brien, that it already says that we're going to support them fully in activities that are legal.
Right.
We're not going to, doesn't say we're going to support illegal activities, that we will fully support anything
Right, I
that's
think that's
legal
how that
and doesn't disrupt
covers
learning
that.
for students.
Right.
One of the risks that we take by editing this as well is it hasn't been run through an attorney. So again, that's something we need to consider as well.
Okay.
I would.
Because this has been run through the attorney and at
Yeah,
ASB
true.
and is approved.
I would concur with Dr. Finch's point there.
Mrs. Ordway, do you have something that you would like to
Well,
add to
I-
the discussion?
Reading the line where no one has worked harder, going through that, this is, I think, it's understood by most that this is for education. I know that there has been conversations with other government employees, because I've heard different things, and it's not running rampant that they don't want teachers not to get something because they didn't get it. We're always going to have a few people that will say, hey, that's not fair, or whatever they say. But for the most part, I believe that public servants support each other. And all of the public servants have students. So I can't see that that would be some kind of a groundswell from the other public servants going, oh, forget it, even though your kids, I've got kids in your rooms, that they would be against it. I think that this might be something that would galvanize all public servants to hope that they might be able to have something look forward to with funds to repair what went away from 2008 and up. So I have a little bit of a different opinion on that. I like that. I mean, it's no one has worked, so well, it's obviously you can read into that what you want. You can believe it, you can't. You know, it's relevant to who's ever reading. It's the perception you get. But I think the perception this board is trying to make is that we recognize all of the work from all of our employees. So I don't see a harm in it.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Mrs. Ordway, I work in county government, and I have not heard anything negative with the county government. In fact, it was interesting. I pulled up into the parking lot in front of my building just yesterday, and I had hashtag Red for Ed on the back of my red car. And this guy pulls in next to me. I think he was going to get a permit or something, I don't know. And he starts like motioning at me. I thought, oh dear, this is not going to go well. And I roll down the window and he's like, good for you, it's about time. You know, it's like, thank you, sir, for your support. So,
Well,
you let him have it. Like, oh, okay, we will.
that's what I'm saying. I believe that because the education profession brings it affects all of them directly. Well, most of them, because I don't know if all of them have children, but they must have nieces or nephews or something. That it's not something that's sticking in someone's craw. I think they're being rooted for. This is something that we're rooting for because it's time.
Mrs. O'Brien, do you have additional thoughts to share? Reedy? Okay.
Well,
I'm feeling a little pressured here. All right, so, Mrs. Tweedy. Of course you're going to add something after you...
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Let's vote. Oh, wait, I have
Let's
something
vote,
to
but I
add.
have one more thing.
I
That's
think she
usually
called
my
for the
line.
vote,
I
Ms.
do
Frank.
too.
It's too
Heard
late
that.
now.
I just really quick want to say I was encouraged at least that teachers' salaries may be addressed. I mean at least he agreed 1% was unreasonable yesterday. But I was very disappointed that he left out classified staff because I don't know any teacher that was wearing a Red for Me shirt. And so And he also left out, the students and the resources that they need. When something tragic happens, everybody says, wow, we should have done more for mental health. Schools have no resources. I remember 10 years ago, and I was talking to a teacher who had a student who had committed a really serious crime as an adult and was all over the news. And I said, are you surprised? She was his third grade teacher. She said, no, not at all. We knew there were problems back then. There just wasn't anything we could do to help. And it's over 10 years later, and we still don't have anything to help. So, I as a teacher, think they've moved in a positive direction for teachers, and the thought that maybe everything would happen one year probably, in my view, wasn't realistic, but they've left out the students and all the other staff that support our students. So I think we still have work to do. And that was my comments on tonight.
Okay, and I would also concur with Ms. Tweedy that we don't want to leave out our classified and the bus drivers who get the kids to school. And I know when vomit happened in my classroom, I wanted the maintenance person there to clean it up. So that's all extremely important. And again, it's Red for Ed. It's not Red for one group versus another group. So,
Ms. Frank, if I
yes.
could just add,
See what you started, Miss Tweedy. All right, Mrs. O'Brien, please go ahead.
I would just like to add on that note, or to that point, that I do hope that the legislature and the governor are able to come to an agreement and enact this plan. And I think that if this plan is enacted, it will be incumbent upon district governing boards like ourselves to take care of the staff that isn't necessarily addressed immediately in this plan. I think this is a step in the right direction. The governor clearly heard the Arizona voices of our teachers, students, parents, and community members, and is taking a step in the right direction. So I think that with the additional monies that he had proposed, there will be an opportunity for the district to take care of the staff that the governor's plan does not include. So,
Okay.
All right, I have one more thing now.
Mrs. Ordway. Thank you,
I
Mrs.
just-
O'Brien. Thank you, Mrs. Ordway. Go ahead.
I really think it was because Coach Benson, his father and the two parents did that run. It was just an amazing coincidence how quickly it was fast tracked, get my pun, into existence. And I do think that there is a perception that it is for teachers, because when people are being interviewed, it's a lot of teachers. So I think at this point in time, I see your shirt. I think that it's up to the spokespeople, which would be the teachers that have been out, to include and mention a lot that you don't do it on your own. You do it because of students with everybody that helps you. So we just get louder and include more so we can now show some visuals on the whole education that we do here. Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
Yes,
So
I'm voting.
if there is no further discussion, okay, no further discussion, I'll call for a roll call vote. Mrs. Ordway,
I vote yes.
Mrs. O'Brien,
Aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Fisher,
And aye.
Ms. Tweedy,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. So the motion carries 5-0. Now, this is the part I've been waiting for all day. Do I get to read the proclamation now? All right.
Get to sign it.
Okay.
I thought we were reading it together.
I vote aye too, even though I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid it'll, it's pretty long to read together, and it's, all right. All right, so whereas the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board recognizes that the funding for schools in Arizona is $1 billion below 2008 levels, and whereas the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board is witness to the consequences of this chronic underfunding and sees the negative impact to teachers, staff, students, families, community, and state, and whereas the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board has supported and worked for solutions to fund teacher and support professionals' pay raises and other educational needs, only to see the Arizona legislature continue to enact tax cuts that run counter to our efforts and fail to adequately fund education. And whereas no one has worked harder nor waited longer for raises and for the money for resources to be restored to their classrooms and schools, nor sacrificed more than our teachers and support staff, and whereas on behalf of our students and families, we cannot allow this crisis to continue without a plan to address these issues, and whereas we are confident our community, including parents, families, caregivers, business leaders, teachers' families, school district administrators, neighbors, and friends, will support meaningful pay raises for public school employees and increased educational funding to educate our children and secure the future of Arizona. Therefore, they're smart. Therefore, we support our school employees as they make their demands known for legislative action to secure the necessary funding for meaningful pay raises and education funding. Be it resolved that the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board is in full support of our educators as they advocate for meaningful pay raises for public school employees and increased funding for public education in ways that are lawful and do not disrupt the educational mission of our district. The Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board urges the Arizona State Legislature to work urgently on behalf of the children and families in our state to take swift and meaningful action to develop a viable plan to pay teachers the professional salaries they deserve. Resolved this 13th day of April 2018. All board members are now signing the resolution. Okay, Mrs. Ordway, have you signed? All right, that is our only item of business. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.